Here's John for KojiPop.com, and this is Counterspy on PS4, which is what we're looking at. PS3 and Vita, the sort of, I think the last in the PlayStation Play promotion with the bunch of titles that have come out. And yeah, this is, well, you may guess with the nuclear weapons going off in the background, the charmingly sort of old school TV, the CRT style warping of the image here. And the music a little bit. We're going Cold War for this one. And I'm actually going to go normal. This is my second playthrough. I just finished the last time I played this, so we're going New Game Plus here because you carry your unlocked abilities, your unlocked perks, your unlocked weapons through. And Counterspy is a sort of stealth action game with an emphasis on the action and with a really cool structure, really awesome. Just like the ideas behind it are really pretty cool. You see the launch plans deal at the top. The idea here is that you're supposed to gain launch plans for the nuclear weapons on both sides of the Iron Curtain, I suppose. So you can infiltrate the socialists, the Russians, or you can infiltrate the imperialists, the Americans. And each mission, depending on its difficulty, has a certain number of launch plans hidden away in the sides of the map. And, you know, I can either go for this one, and that will net me one of all the launch plans I need to get, or I can go for 3 of them. But what's more interesting as well is that the stealth and the level of how good you are kind of reflects in the DEFCON level. And so either side's sort of DEFCON level starts at 3 and can either go up to 1 or down to 5, depending on how many times I'm spotted, and that's persistent in between levels. Now I can bring that DEFCON level down by capturing officers, so I can go to this level. If my DEFCON level was at 1, which is a bit panic stations, I can go to this one and sort of capture as many officers as I can to bring that level back down. But other than that, it will persist, and if it gets to DEFCON 1, and I get spotted again, then they'll initiate a nuclear countdown, and if I don't sort of stop the launch from taking place, then it's game over, basically. So it's got a really cool, really neat structure to it in that regard. It's also, the levels are all kind of randomly generated, which adds another sort of element, I guess, of replayability to things, but hang on, I'm going to go in here. So I've unlocked a whole bunch of weapons, but you have to have the cash to actually use them. But if you always get the silenced pistol, that is the way to go. I really honestly barely used any of the other weapons other than the silenced pistol when I played the game before. You also have formulas, which give you sort of single-use perks for each mission. So I tend to get shot a lot, so I'm going to go do this. One thing I forgot to do was invert my y-axis, because I've been playing through all of this on Vita, where I did invert the y-axis, and then one thing that your progress gets recorded in between stuff with cross-save, but your settings don't for whatever reason. That's a little bit annoying. But yeah, kind of adding to the replayability of it is that the missions are randomized each time, which it brings me to mind Impossible Mission by Epix. It's like an ancient C64 game, because that had the similar idea of capturing enemy intelligence in this randomly generated world. It's just Impossible Mission with this big, massive system space, and here everything's sort of clustered off in small little sections, which is perfect for portable play, but there's a whole bunch of things that make it not ideal for portable play. So yeah, it's a side-on stealth game, and I've got to be honest with you, like the structure and the ideas of it and everything like that, I wanted to dearly love this, and then I started playing it, and then I was kind of a little bit disappointed by it by the game's end. One of the big problems with it is what... Oh, well, I'll tell you in a little bit. But one of the big problems with it is actually the random structure, I think. Because I've been through, even though it's randomly generated, I've been through this network of events before. I've been into a room like this before. I'm going to come up behind him and take him out. You know, it kind of has a fairly limited pool of, or seed of rooms that it generates the level from, and that often makes it, by the time you finish the game, even though, you know, the levels are all random and different each time, they're kind of differently shuffled versions of the same level parts every time, and it's constantly feeling like I've seen this bit. It does get really, really repetitive towards the game's end, especially the last room in every stage, which is pretty much identical every time. So yeah, I'm gonna run through here real quick. So there was nothing, yeah, there's nothing kind of alternative to check out in this room. It kind of behooves you to check the corner of every room once you've downed everybody. It's not stealth as in I'm just going to sneak past everyone and you know, so they never thought I was here. It's stealth in a kind of, it's like GoldenEye stealth, right? It's like sneak up behind everyone and murder everyone. Still murder everyone. That's still really important. But, you know, as much as possible, we're going to try not to get spotted in the process. Now, here's a big problem I have with the game. It's 2D side on stealth is difficult to do. I can hit cover here, and then it goes into a very swish sort of 3D motion bit, so it kind of does try and make you see, if you take cover, you know, parts of the room beyond what you can see in the side on thing. But the big problem is this kind of, it's too zoomed in. Though he's already gotten, you know, slightly alerted to my presence here, which is good because it'll draw him out over here and I can take him out behind this pillar. But in other rooms where you don't have that pillar, this is super frustrating because you don't have an idea of how far the enemies can see. You've got a counter at the top which kind of says, hey, there's a guy here, he's facing to the right. You know, as you can see at the top of the screen there, but it doesn't give you anywhere near enough information. And despite all the inputs that you have on the PS4 controller, especially on Vita, you have the rear touch, you have the front touch, you have all these buttons that the game doesn't use. I really wish I could just flick the right stick in order to, you know, the right stick does nothing unless I hold L1 and then it's aiming. I really wish I could just flick the right stick and get a sweep of the room, or touch the touchpad so I could get a sweep of the room, so that I could see things in advance. But it just doesn't happen, and that's probably, I don't know, in part why it goes for this murderous approach to stealth rather than sneaking past everyone approach to stealth. Because if it did want you to sneak past absolutely everyone, it would just be ludicrously unfair and very, very difficult to do. So what you also want to do here is get side stuff. I of course want to go to computers and disrupt the launch plans, but I can also go and blow that up. And I've gotten a piece of a formula for precision aim. So you know, those formulas, those perks, you unlock by collecting little pages. You also get blueprints for new weapons as well, unlocked in the same way, and all sorts of little things for cash and things like that. And you have cash, and you also have a score. You see there's a multiplier at the top that's counting up, and I've got 2 stealth kills at the moment. And there is kind of an interesting approach to how it deals with online stuff. It's not really taken far enough, but it will kind of say who the nearest score to you is on PSM, and you can then, if you beat that person's score over the course of the game, then you're able to then find their body in the next game, in the next stage, and if you reclaim their body, then you get a shit ton of money. So that's pretty cool. I don't need any bullets here. So this is kind of an early stage. There's not very many people. It's fairly easy to advance through, fairly obviously, but it just does get very, very, you know, towards the end of the game, most things degenerate into firefights, mainly because, you know, it's you have no idea where people are really, and that's a great shame. So it's someone like me, because I like stealth games. You know, it is possible to do stealth in 2D. I think, you know, obviously Mark of the Ninja did it pretty much to perfection. So there we go. I caught one of the 3 launch pads there. If there's anything down here, there is. Anyways. Yeah, Mark the Ninja did it absolutely perfectly. There was also games which most people, 99% of people have forgotten, but Ubisoft or whoever they did the port jobs to did amazing versions of Splinter Cell, the Splinter Cell games on Game Boy Advance. And those were 2D stealth games, and they were really, really good. I think it was Gameloft, actually. They were really, really good, and they did 2D stealth in a really sort of side-scrolling stealth, rather, in a very interesting way. But Counterspy really doesn't do it very well. Perhaps should have opted for the harder difficulty level so you can see the frustrations that it involves. But here, when you get to this larger map, so now I'm pretty much forced to start shooting stuff. There's 2 ways it does this. First, we're in this 3D view. You can see that, you know, decreasing in size reticule, which is going to determine if I just hold L1 where I look first, and then I can control my aim from there, just with the right stick and the L button, and then you shoot in the normal way. It's frustrating for me because when it comes to me and I want to probably take that guy out. When it comes to me and inverted controls, as I mentioned before, I always invert my controls when it's a 3D game, and I never invert my controls when it's a 2D game. Because here's the thing that nobody makes notice about in the debate of inverting controls, right? I invert my controls in 3D games because if a space is in 3D, I interpret the stick, the right stick, you know, holding in an upward direction as forward, and you tilt your head forward to look down, and you tilt your head backward to look up. But in a 2D space, then there is no forward and back. The right stick goes up and down. So I want that to be 2 separate settings. I want it here, I don't want it inverted. But here, I want inverted, thank you very much. But this game doesn't let you do that. It's a universal split setting, which is it's a very, very, very minor kind of thing. Certainly minor when it comes to just the frustrations that I have with the stealth otherwise. I mean, it is just a matter of the stealth just not working, and, you know, the fact that it degenerates mainly because, you know, I mean, you're inevitably gonna get seen because you can't see far enough. It's just kind of poorly designed in that regard. And although it's much easier to deal with on PS4 as we're playing here, when things do go to pop, on Vita, when things go to pop, and things will go to pop, the shootouts with an awful lot of enemies. I'm gonna wait for him to go over there and then shoot that thing, just so I can get a cool explosion. On Vita, like, these bits, that was dramatic slowdown for dramatic effect. But shootouts with several enemies, the frame rate goes down to something like single figures. It's really, you know, Vita should have no problems running this. But it does have massive problems running this, and it's a really big shame. Sorry, I'm just going to pop up here to show you. This room you will see every time. Pretty much, or some very, very slight variant of it you will see every time, and that's what I mean about the random structure. It gets incredibly repetitive the further you get throughout the game. and that kind of coupled with the little frustrations that there are, it just kind of adds up to something that's really kind of impossible to recommend. But I think in this case I can just pop across and just save myself the pain of shooting. The shooting in itself as well, not that great. You know, it's apart from the fact that the aim just doesn't really work for me, for my tastes of how I aim my shit in video games. But also, I'm not really, this kind of gives a general idea, because you are suddenly having to aim in 3D. It does give you a vague idea of where you'll be shooting, but it's, well, it's not very precise, and the aiming's not great, the shooting's not great, the shooting's not very fun. I don't think in stealth games in general, like, the point isn't for it to be a shoot 'em up, you know? In most stealth games, it isn't suddenly a case of, oh hey, let's enjoy blasting a bunch of enemies. So when the design of the game basically means you're forced to fight at some point, then the shooting has to be really, really good for that to work, and the shooting's not really very, very good for it to work. It's not good enough. But yeah, you get to the end of the game, the end of the stage here, and once you do, you hit that thing, deactivate the computer, and yeah, you're done. That's the end of the level. Yeah, as I say, it does have an interesting thing when you're at DEFCON 1 and you get spotted. It'll suddenly say, you know, they'll sort of bite and start launching a nuclear attack. Oddly enough, like, this is a game about both sides of the Cold War trying to launch a nuclear attack on the moon and knock it out of its orbit, which would destroy the world, fairly obviously. And yeah, so that's an odd thing. But yeah, the cool thing is it'll say, oh hey, you have 1 minute to launch, and then it's a mad rush to get to the computer and shut it down before that happens. So that's all sorts of nice things, actually. There's all sorts of nice things apart from the bit where you play the game, basically. And that's not something that particularly easy, you know, it's particularly easy to show off. So I don't know, hang on, let's I think first of all I'm gonna quickly invert my y-axis because it will just drive me crazy. Oh dear, I can't. Okay, never mind. So yeah, I did think, oh, I'll just show you a level on hard just to see what I meant when I was getting pretty pissed off with the game, basically. But yeah, I mean, the DEFCON level thing does kind of bring some intrigue to which level you're going to do next, even though basically they're the same. It's just the posters on the wall that are different. But, you know, had I screwed this level up really, really badly and we were at DEFCON 1, then I would go over and do one of these levels because it would be a safe bet. And you can complete any number of levels on either side, you know, as long as you collect all the launch plans and you don't trigger a nuclear war. So it's like the structure of it, really awesome, really, really clever, and clever and good for Vita as well. Like the levels are just bite-sized enough that you can play them for a commute. Just some of the other formulas here, you can have Persuasion, which brings down the DEFCON level automatically, which just kind of thing, I think on normal at least, it makes the game too easy. You can prevent being spotted by security cameras, you can run completely silently, which is cool, and I'm collecting some more of these stuff as well. Yeah, it's everything. It's one of those games where everything is great about it except for when you actually play it. These loading screens also seem to take slightly too long, especially on Vita, where the loading's really, really bad. It's a bunch of missteps when it comes to actually playing the game, especially when you hold this up against something like Mark of the Ninja, which does stuff absolutely perfectly. You know, I mean, frankly, you know, I love the humor of it, and I love the design of it, and as I said, the structure of it. I hate the actual sort of stealth gameplay, which is, you know, it's a miracle I got that guy, because I have no idea when I'm in his sort of vision cone, and you only have the vaguest idea of which way he's facing and where he is, and that just gets really annoying. The shooting's pretty bad, and it just doesn't work for me, and that's a shame, because I was really looking forward to Counterspy actually, and you know. Boink. There we go. And yeah, it's a short game as well, and I kind of think that's where the random aspect is to its supposed benefit, but you know, as well as the persistent upgrades, you know, that's where it plays to the game's benefit. But as I said, it just means that because there's such a small seed of areas to go into, you're just playing the same level over and over again, and it's like, oh, hang on, I've been here. It's like I suppose that's part of the thing. It's like a budget Cold War movie in that regard, you know. You know, we don't have the budget to flesh out our sets, so you know, you're running through the same set every now and again. So there's some enemy alerts over here. One cool thing is that when they are curious, they may contact headquarters over the radio, and if they do, then the DEFCON level will steadily creep out until I take them out. You know, as I said, lots of like really great thought has gone into the overarching structure of the game. It's just that the game itself isn't that great. And again, it's something that I don't think, you know, there wouldn't be any spoilers in showing a late stage of the game. So probably, you know, it would have been better illustrated. I've installed it here. And yeah, see his weapon, which is raising the DEFCON level. But it's cool. I can die as much as I want as well within reason, but every time I do die, it raises the DEFCON level by a whole 1 point. So, you know, it's best not to. Yeah, just the game itself, not feeling it. It's not great. It is much better on console as opposed to Vita. I mean, for a bunch of things. For one, well, I suppose much better on PS4 specifically as opposed to PS3 and Vita. For one, you've got the PS4 controller with the more tightly wound sticks, so it does make pulling headshots off unseen. It makes that an awful lot easier, and that might be a resolution thing as well, helping that out. Whereas on Vita, because you do have those kind of loose sticks, it makes shooting absolute dreadful mess. So yeah, even though the structure would fit itself really well to a portable game, it really does not. You know, it's really not recommended for Vita at all. It's moderately better on PS4, but still kind of, I think, average at best, which is a big shame. It's also out on mobile devices, I think, like your PlayStation mobile, Android phones. You can also get this for. And what is neat is that it does cross-save through all of those. You saw the little flash up there. That was kind of an alert to tell me that if you leave witnesses behind in a level, if you start an alert or you have people... Yeah, I've definitely been through this space about 3 or 4 times before. If if people have spotted you, or if people think they've spotted you, and you move on, then you will have your DEFCON level suitably raised. So, basically it's like, hey, did you kind of get spotted? Well, you now need to murder everybody, I'm afraid. So that's kind of the theme here. I do like the explosions. It also has really fun ragdoll effects of people flying absolutely everywhere and glitching in the scenery and stuff. It's not the most technically great, you know, brilliant technical showcase, especially on PS4, to have things glitch out so much. But it's pretty funny, and a lot of the game plays it for laughs actually. I think because this is my second playthrough, it's given me less of the story stuff than it usually does, than it did in the first playthrough. But it is pretty funny. Okay, let me get this up. Remember before with the big window, this is the second of like 3 final rooms you'll go in, and yeah, I don't mean, you know, you will go through this 2 or 3 times, you know, you'll see this area twice in each playthrough or whatever. I mean, you saw how many missions there kind of are until the final level, which is a bit more designed as opposed to random, but yo, literally you will shoot this thing out 5-6 times. You will have exactly the same layout with exactly the same people appear 5 or 6 times in one playthrough. It just constantly repeats like that, and that's a really big shame. So you see, I beat a friend's high score there, and that means in the next stage, it's all broken. It didn't take too long. In the next stage, if I can diligently search the area and find his body, then I can reap some rewards if I won. Why would I want? Presumably for the trophy, really, because I've already finished the game. And yeah, this is pretty familiar as well. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I thought random stealth, you know, well, stealth light and Cold War stuff, that's awesome, and that's very impossible mission, which is great. I love impossible missions, not a lot. Love it hard, but this is nowhere near as good as Impossible Mission. Impossible Mission, by the way, is 30 years old. Oh, but you do get trophies twice, it seems, because I've already had that trophy several times. So I guess you do get, you know, I got that trophy on Vita and now I've got it again on PS4, so you do get separate sets. So if you're hunting trophies, then hey, by all means. There you go, you get all the schematics, and like the missions are kind of grouped into 5, I guess, difficulty levels within each set, so now it gets a little bit harder. These little bits are pretty funny. But you know, I think you can imagine we're in a neutral party, but we're going in and we're trying to sabotage both sides. You can imagine the kind of directions that the story will go without me having to spoil it. But yeah, that's basically it. If I can quickly find friend of kaijupop.com index here, and what the hell? I'll get a big loud shooty gun. But yeah, that's Counterspy. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the idea of it. You know, I really enjoyed the metagame stuff of it. And then you play it and you go, ugh, and then you play it some more and you go, ugh, and then you play it some more and you go, I've already played this before. Specifically in this game. And yeah, it's probably one of the bigger disappointments that I've had so far this year. Despite, you know, having some people that are really big fans of it, it just does nothing for me, I'm afraid. So yeah, that's Counterspy. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is out on PS4, PS3, and Vita right now. And yeah, cross-buy and cross-save and all that good stuff between each of them. Chris Chan for kaijupop.com. Thanks for watching very much.